I don't have enough work. I'm going to go out and find work. And then you find the work, and then all of a sudden you're too busy to find more work.
Your business should be a balanced part of your life, but it shouldn't be your whole existence. But a lot of people who come to me, their whole life becomes about business.
I was doing all the work and I had to work on the business, not in the business.
Boring businesses tend to be very great for self-development, for leadership development, and for personal finances.
There was always a, how can I do that? And now my mindset is more, who can do that for me?
Even big problems don't feel that big anymore.
I just get so mad about it. But then the thing that actually made me money was cleaning toilets.
What that did to me was not the best.
You're living this like perfect, wonderful life that so many people would be jealous of, but somehow it feels empty and shallow.
It was kind of stagnant, and I was happy with that. And I found that there was no meaning behind my businesses anymore.
Quick intro. My name is Ryan Knoll. I'm a business coach. I'm an entrepreneur. I run a Phoenix-based home cleaning company in Phoenix and Tucson called Tidy Casa. We do over $2 million a year. I am also a coach for a business called Conquer Business Coach. I've got tens of people that I'm coaching there. And then I'm doing this YouTube channel to continue the education journey and give back. Stay tuned while I dive in with Christopher Schwab on how he grew his company and how he found balance in his life. And we touch on some really wonderful topics that we really haven't touched on this channel. The really deep stuff that you get into with coaching about getting out of your way and finding balance and finding that zen that we really, really need in our lives. So stay tuned. You're going to love this episode. This is absolutely wonderful. And I'm so glad that Christopher joined me for this. We're going to go deep on a lot of this philosophical stuff and just generally talk about small businesses, growing small business, like the real practical stuff, not the fluffy stuff, about how you grow your business. I'm giving a lot of really great tools in this episode. All of these episodes are like this. If you like this content, like and subscribe. And what I want to hear from you today is, what's out of balance in your life? What is something that you're going to do to find that balance back in your life, put that back in, and get out of your business? So are you spending enough time with your wife? Are you spending enough time on your kids? Did you start your business so you could spend more time with your kids? And that just didn't end up happening because now you're working 80 hours a week. I want to know about that. Post that in the comments. Let me know what's going on in your life. Let me know what changes you're making to get that balance, to get back to that zen, beautiful zen garden of a business life. Let me know in the comments. And if you like this content, subscribe today. We're putting this stuff out every week, 2 or 3 times a week. So there's more to come. Yeah, thanks for jumping on to the show. My name is Ryan Knoll. I'm a business coach running a home cleaning business, doing over $2 million a year, dozens of business companies, and kind of doing this thing on YouTube. And I'm joined by Chris Schwab, who also running $1 million made company. You've got your VA service that you run and doing business coaching as well.
That's right. Thanks for having me on, man. It's really good to see you again.
Yeah, dude, it's always awesome to connect. Me and Chris have known each other for years and years. Like, I feel like we've been chatting on Facebook at least since like 2017. Just getting to know each other. And yeah, you've just been a delightful person to get to know and just check in with every now and then. I don't think we talk enough, but every time I talk to you, I feel like I level up. So great to have you on.
I feel the same way, man. We'll go 6 months or like 8 months without talking. Then we'll have a big chat, and then it'll be another year almost.
Yeah, and then we'll talk, and then my business will be revolutionized after we talk because you're so genius, and then we'll be there.
He's giving me too much credit. Cool.
Hey, no, you're great. Yeah, I think the thing that I always loved about you was the kind of digital nomad stuff. So stop me if I'm wrong, but that was kind of your thing, is you were running your cleaning business completely remotely. Like you were, in Japan and other places when your company was operating in the United States, right?
Yeah. So, wow, this has taken us back almost a decade now, making me feel old. But yeah, back in 2016, man, I was in my final year of university, and I was kind of at a very important stage in my life where I was dating my current wife, then girlfriend, who's Japanese, living in Japan. And so it was a case of need rather than want. Back in those days, most of the remote jobs were blogging jobs or SEO related, which I know a big part of your background is, but at the time was not my background, or kind of web
Yeah.
design. And so I didn't have any of the skill sets that you could get remote jobs in back in 2016. And so I was in DC in college, and I figured out I needed to find a way, whatever that way was, I needed to find a way that I could sustain myself and live in Japan with my girlfriend at the time.
Mhm.
And so
Yeah.
so the cleaning business case study that we're all familiar with popped up at that time. A guy called Rohan Gilks started
Mhm.
a popular Reddit case study, and so I just thought, screw it, what's the worst that can happen? I'll put $1,000 towards this, and I will try and start a clean company, right? And so
And so when you read that case study, because I went through the same thing, just stumbled across that on Reddit somewhere. Had you wanted to be an entrepreneur? Had you done entrepreneurial things, or was this like your first go at it?
Oh, kind of my first. So I wanted to be a psychologist, and I actually still want to be. I'd like to do something
Yeah.
with psychology in the future at some point. We'll get there. Maybe I'll just be a dream for a while, but at some point I will return to that. I did go through a couple months of writing SEO articles for a guy on a white label basis. I was writing vampire Botox articles for $50 a piece for him.
Vampire. Oh
Freelancing.
yeah, that's where they like take your blood and like put it in a centrifuge and then like put it back onto your face, right? The vampire facials. Yeah. Man, that is so funny. Like when I was first getting into SEO, for some reason I had this, I know why, because my mom or somebody worked for a plastic surgeon. I was kind of getting into doing websites,
Yeah.
and then they needed websites built. So I ended up building, like, I just connected with one of their like sales reps and had him sell my SEO blog services. This is way before I even knew what the heck I was doing. I was
Yeah.
totally faking it back then. But I ended up managing like 12 plastic surgeon websites.
Kidding.
And it's just like you fall into these weird niches. And it's like, why do I know so much about rhinoplasties? It's like,
That's so
it's
funny. Yeah.
not my world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wrote one about
That's hilarious.
rhinoplasty too, man. Small
Hmm.
world.
Well, back then that was the SEO move, right? It was like
Yeah.
content based. So it's like, I just got to get 1,000 words on whatever this topic is. And the doctors don't have time to write it. So it's like, write something on, vampire facials.
It's funny. My brother, this is totally random. I wrote an article for a guy who worked on deviated septums, which is
Mm,
inside the nose, there's a
yeah.
deviation from the normal line, which blocks the air partially going into your nose, so it makes it harder to breathe. So I wrote an article
Yeah.
for a guy on it. I never thought anything about it, but my brother had a deviated septum surgery like a couple years later, and it was that guy. so
And your article's on there. He probably found the doctor through your SEO article.
oh, I'm sure it was buried deep in the website somewhere. It was terrible,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
but what it
Funny.
did do, that SEO stint gave me $700, and I
Hmm.
reinvested that into the cleaning company. And so it
Nice.
actually, as not fun as a gig as that was for me at the time, it was the true start of something which changed my life. So I'm very thankful for that stint that I had.
No, that's awesome. It's super epic. I love that. And I did something very similar, right? I started the SEO thing. I didn't know enough about business. So I was in the owner operator situation, which is that seesaw of, I don't have enough work. I'm going to go out and find work. And then you find the work. And then all of a sudden you're too busy to find more work. So you're doing the work. And then there's, attrition over here. Then you got to go back on this other side of the seesaw and go find more work. So just going back and forth, like trying to build websites and do SEO for people, not knowing that the mistake I was making was that I was doing all the work and I had to work on the business, not in the business, but I was constantly working in the business. So it ended up not going anywhere for me. Got a job doing SEO for somebody else because that's what I was doing is the work. And then actually learned how to do SEO from this guy, kind of got my SEO mentor, did that with him for 4 or 5 years, kind of on and off working for him or other companies doing marketing automation stuff. And then eventually came across this article from Rohan, right? Just like you did. I'm like, okay, I've tried businesses before. I think this thing that Rohan had blogged about was, working on the business, not in the business, and doing something that's not sexy. My very first business, I was doing video production, like trying to make movies. Then I did SEO, building websites and doing design, all kind of sexy-ish jobs, at least, from my 20-year-old self's perspective. But then the thing that actually made me money was cleaning toilets, right? So yeah, read that blog, and then I got a couple SEO clients, paying a couple grand a month, and just put all that money into the cleaning business.
Very cool, man. You know, it's funny how strange it's funny how different the sexy versus non-sexy part of it is. Because
Yeah.
do you know a guy called Matt Ricketts in our industry? You
Yeah.
must know
Yeah.
him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
yeah.
know Matt.
Yeah, so we had a conversation a few years back, kind of joking a little bit. He does. I don't know if he still does it, but at the time, he would go to some community meetings in his local service area.
Hmm.
Not business related, I think, just community meetings to have your voice heard and so on.
Cool.
And and they would talk about salaries and stuff sometimes, and no one thought that him running a cleaning business would be well paid, right? So he was kind of dismissed out of the upper echelons, I think, of that thought pattern.
Yeah, but Matt Ricketts is like a legendary cleaning business owner. I think his
Right? Like, no one knows. Like, this dude is just
yeah,
running an empire. Like,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, I found the same thing. I have a lot of friends who have very sexy businesses or freelance gigs, and that's super cool. But they
Yeah.
often struggle because of the sexy nature of it. Everyone wants to do it. They often struggle to make their mark or be consistent or to earn a good living. In Japan, it's a particular problem with the animation industry,
Um,
like cartoons and anime, for example.
mhm.
A lot of people become attached to that as a hobby, and so they want to join the industry. But because of that, there's an exploitative element of the industry where they can pay them terribly. But because they love doing what they
Yeah.
love doing, it's okay. And so these sexy industries are often maybe gratifying, but they may
Hmm.
not be uh, great for your personal finances. Where I found
Yeah.
boring businesses tend to be very great for self development, for leadership development, and for personal finances. I found them to be really wonderful business models that teach so many things in such a real life way that other business models tend not to.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel that as well. It was like getting my MBA, but better than an MBA because it was practical. The things that I didn't know. So even if I went back and got a job tomorrow, which I would never do, I'm way too feral at this point. Um, I learned things about leadership, about how to run a meeting, about how to, praise in public and, punish in private, and um, how to set up weekly meetings and how to keep them consistent, and how to do sales and customer service and work with vendors and executive assistants and delegate work, and the value of delegating work, the value of my own time as a leader. Whereas when you've always kind of had the employee mindset, or before you kind of were able to step into a role like this, there was always a, how can I do that? And now my mindset is more, who can do that for me? Right?
That's good. Yeah.
Which really changes the perspective of just your own scalability as a business, as a human, and just your ability to get things done. Which, it was a big unlock for me, and it was just from the fact that, like, hey, let's put together this business and make it happen, and actually start figuring things out, like, how does cash flow work, and what's up with workers' compensation insurance? How do I make that work?
Yeah. And I think a big one for me too, I'm sure this is true for you. The attitude that I take to problems in my life is very different now. Like, I notice
Oh,
people who maybe haven't had a business or maybe haven't had a lot of like strife in their life, so to speak. When a problem happens, they react very strongly, very emotionally. And
yeah.
that's good to have the emotion. But if you can maybe notice it almost like in a meditative way and then recenter right back on the solution to that, it's much better. Like for me now, if I get an unexpectedly big tax bill or an employee really messes something up at a big level, like I feel that, but I'm just like, all right, all right, what's the fix here? Let's get it fixed and move on. Like there's no sense of doom anymore, you know?
Yeah.
You know, when you start your business, you get a 5-star review, like a 1-star review instead of a 5-star review. You are crushed all week. You're like anxious. You're thinking about your average star rating dropping, how no one's going to book you
Oh
again.
man.
Like you get these
Yeah.
outsized reactions to something so small. But as you go through many of those problems over the years, even big problems don't feel that big anymore. You just kind of get on with it now, you know? You're just like, all right, let's just whatever, I'll figure it out, you know?
Yeah, I remember that feeling, like that really sits with me. The 1-star review thing, like I would constantly be checking that my phone, and I just remember that little Yelp like icon popping up, like you got a review, and it never told you what the review was. It just like, you got one, so you got to click on it. And I would just see it, and like my heart would start racing, and then I just didn't want to click on that stupid icon because I didn't want to see if it was a 1-star. 99% of the time it was a 5-star, but I would like, okay, I got to be in a good place before I can check this thing because I'm gonna freak out about it. And then you check it to be a 1-star, and you just I just get so mad about it. And now I get a 1-star, and it's like, whatever, it's fine. Like it, you just learn these lessons. Like, I was so set on having a 5-star Yelp page always. And if somebody wrote a 1-star, I was so good at calling them and just bugging the shit out of them until they would remove that. I was able to get like 90% of the people that wrote 1-stars to take them off after I talked to them. I just became like this ninja of like customer service and getting people to like, verbal judo them out of that 1-star and get them back into a better place. And now it's just like, so not worth that effort. And Yelp made it even harder to do that now. I don't even know if you could do that nowadays, because now it gives them like a warning, like, did the business owner call you? Don't take this off. But you eventually learn, like, it's actually okay to have a 4.5 star. It's actually better, because when you have a 5-star, everybody's expecting this like crazy level of service. The bar is so high at the get-go. When you're at 4.5 star, they're just kind of happy to have it done. They just want to get the chore done and move on. And the customers that kind of ended up finding me were different, and life was just so much easier. But I had to learn like letting go of that was so important. And it just takes a while. It takes a little bit of experience to kind of get there, and just these little tiny lessons you learn along the way about, like you said, dealing with strife and adversity, and something bad happens. You don't have time to, say, what am I going to do? Freak out moment. You just go straight into fixing it, whatever it is. Okay, this thing broke at the customer's house. What are my options? I got insurance. I got pay for it in cash. I got maybe ask the customer if they want a refund. Okay, I'm just going to go through those things with them. Okay, cool. We're moving on. And I think even with a lot of that stuff, I've systemized to this point where I don't even know about the issues that are happening in my company anymore. I really don't hear about them unless it's like, okay, this is the 3rd time this cleaner called out in the last like 3 weeks. Do you want to remove them? And I just ask my team, like, hey, what do you want to do? And they kind of give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. I say, cool, do it. Do whatever you're going to do. I'm just kind of over here at this point.
I got 2 thoughts for you, man, on that one. The first is, do you feel useless for your team now? Because I've given my team so much responsibility and independence. When they come for me for decisions, sometimes I just immediately delegate the decision to them. So sometimes I'm like, my life is great, but other times I'm like, man, I became a little too lazy sometimes. Like, I got to step in here,
So what I've realized, you got 2 thoughts. I got 2 thoughts. I don't know if I feel that way, but I did go through a bit of like the success guilt of feeling like, because I'm making all this money up here and I've got people that are cleaning houses for me down here, and I kind of, there was like one of them at one point that felt like she was going to get evicted from her house because she wasn't making enough money. I'm, kind of her main source of income, so I feel guilty about that. And when she told me this, I just happened to be in town. This is my remote location in Tucson that I never really go to. I was out in Tucson grabbing coffees with people, and she just happened to tell me this over coffee. She was going to get evicted. It's like, okay, well, how short are you on your, on your rent? $1,400. Here's a check for $1,400. Don't get evicted. Let's get it fixed. You can just take it out of your next couple paychecks. And then time goes on, and she's keeps calling me saying like, oh, I can't take that $100 out of my paycheck. I basically was like, hey, we're going to take a year to pay this back because you only get paid every 2 weeks. I'll just take $100, like whatever. And she would be like, I can't afford that $100 out of the paycheck. And it's not like I gave her $1,400 for this, right? Like, she should be up on her bills and be current. But it wasn't really happening. She kept saying no. And then she would, we would have more work for her, and then she would turn it down. So if somebody would call it sick, we'd call her like, hey, can you, go take care of this for us or help us with this? No, I'm busy. Like, hey, we only have like 2 or 3 jobs on your schedule. We got this other like 2 or 3 here. Do you want them? No. So, she was kind of what I learned from that. So after all that was said and done, that $1,400 I gave her to get current um, on her rent, so she didn't get evicted, was she didn't spend it on that. She spent it on something else. I don't remember what it was, but she ended up getting evicted and didn't tell me, didn't spend the money on doing that. And she was a very nice person, but the kind of the lesson I learned from it is there's people sort of kind of rise to their greatest ability. I mean, it's part greatest ability, part just kind of circumstance. There's some people that are just like excellent operators. They're doing everything they can, but they're just kind of in this weird circumstance where this is where they're at right now. But for somebody like that, this is where she's at. She's happy. She liked doing the cleaning job. She probably grew up in a family with a lot of instability, and getting evicted is kind of normal. And as much as I did to help, I couldn't help kind of changing her. So I sort of stepped back from having the success guilt of, hey, this person's going to get evicted from their apartment. I'm making money off of her and I'm not getting evicted, but I also don't spend a lot of my money. And when I first started the business, I was doing the business and working a full-time job and putting a ton of money away. Like, we have a different perspective on these things, and these things are really important to me. This level of security that the money provides is important to me. And she's got a different lifestyle. So I had to kind of let go of that guilt of being successful when it felt like my employees weren't. And I had employees that went through very similar things where I remember one really she was trying to move into this apartment. She was in a rent controlled apartment. She wanted to move into a nicer apartment. She was making really good money with the company. I think she was one of my cleaners that was making, so for that cleaner that I had that was getting evicted, I have plenty of cleaners that are making 50, 60K a year. She was in this like 50, 60K a year bracket where she was doing really, really well, working hard. We started having people shadow her, and we were giving her extra money for shadowing. So she was like doing a lot of these extra things to like make money, and things were going really well. She moved into this new apartment. She was only there for a little while, and somewhere along her like route to get there was a couple homeless people, just intense. And it gave her these like flashbacks of when she was homeless as a kid. So it made her really anxious about this new place she was going to take over. And she ended up not wanting to go into that apartment because the apartment was, the rent controlled thing was she's paying maybe $600-700 a month. The new apartment was maybe $1,500, about twice as much, nicer, and a really nice apartment. She had told me she'd never lived in an apartment this nice. So she was excited about it, but then she just had this thing in her that just triggered at some point that she's not worthy of this. She's not ready for whatever this is. And she started regressing really, really fast. So she ended up, pulling back work from us, started messing up on jobs constantly. Just like something happened, something changed. And she just became the worst person to work with from like one of our best. And it was because she just kind of hit this certain level, and there was something in her psychology that just didn't want her to be successful. Like, she didn't feel like she deserved it. And I'm, armchair psychoanalyzing her here, but I feel like I ran into it more than once where somebody was doing really, really good in the company, and I'm giving them everything and they're moving up, and then something happens where they're not ready for it. So like with the business coaching stuff that we do, I feel like I run into this with a lot of entrepreneurs too, where a lot of the coaching stuff that I'm actually doing is teaching people that it's okay to be successful, and that you can do it. Because like more than anything else, I think I teach people to get out of their own way, if that makes sense. So you had kind of asked, I think the original question was, is there like a level of guilt with the success, and kind of how do you deal with, sort of those ideas, like, oh, am I valuable to my team? And what so for the guilt portion of that, the people that want to be successful in my team and move up with me do. So I don't feel bad about that, because we've got systems where anybody can kind of move up to whatever level they want as fast as they want. And I've had people go from, $15 an hour with me to $100,000 a year. And it can happen. It took a long time. And there's only a handful that have done that. But for the people that want more, we've got more to give, right? Mm-hmm. And so for everybody else, they're comfortable being where they're at, and they're not built like me. They don't want to constantly be improving and optimizing and, growing, right? They they value different stuff, spending time with the family, having weekends off. Didn't have weekends off for the first like year and a half I was doing this, right? I was still learning. There's that piece of it. And then the like, am I valuable to my team piece? I try to make sure that I'm there for the important things. So a couple of the things that we do. So my team's fully remote, I think a lot like your team. I try to make sure that in our Slack channel, I say good morning to everybody every morning. I try to be a part of our weekly meetings. So I still run our weekly meetings where I'm not, really presenting anything in those meetings. I'm mostly just sitting back saying, okay, this person, can you go over our instances for the last week? Okay, what's our schedule look like? What numbers do we have to hit? Are there any big issues in the company? And I'm kind of hosting that, and everybody else is presenting. Makes me feel a little bit more involved. And then every quarter, I get with every one of those people and say, hey, you're doing good. Here's your scorecard. Here's where you're at. And then I make sure that I'm focusing on the big things. So I'm still trying to grow the cleaning business. So the types of things that I've been working on lately is introducing rate sheets, and where cleaners can have transparency into what they're making. And this is something that I can use when I'm hiring, something that I can use to help motivate the good cleaners to move up. So we had sort of an unofficial version of this and just spent a lot of time making it official. And we got this really nice PDF where they can see, hey, I start here, then I can go here, then I can go here, then I can go here. And after a year and a quarter, I can go from making the equivalent of about $35 an hour to $40. And, those are the type of bigger things that I think add a lot more value to the company that I can work on that the people that are answering the phone can't. So I still make sure that I'm doing stuff and I'm being present in things and, participating in the things that I like to do for the company, like SEO. I still do my own SEO because I don't know, I've been doing it for so long. I just kind of enjoy it.
That's your thing, man.
Yeah, it's my thing, right? Yeah, I'm the SEO guy. So, I had moments, right, where I was like going back and forth, like, should I feel guilty for like being successful and not, working in this company 40 hours a week? But I feel like I eventually got over it and I kind of found my comfort zone, my place where I can add value. And, my value isn't being in the day-to-day. It's actually worse if I'm there day-to-day. So
Me too. My team tell me to shut up. We got this.
Yeah.
I got
well, how about you? Like, do you feel like you're involved in the company and like adding value? Like, is there a guilt that goes along with that?
I'm going to try and not throw a tsunami of thoughts at you because you made me think a lot the past few minutes. So much stuff I just want to get out now. First, I think you're absolutely right. Just return to your earlier story. It's a skill to learn when you should extend a helping hand and how far you should extend that hand, and when you need to let someone figure things out on their own. I have done literally that exact mistake, almost word for word. So that makes, man, that is a real skill to learn, not just as a business owner, but as a person, is to know when you can help someone and when you should, and when you really can't, and you got to let them do it. That's big.
You got to let them fail. Yeah. Sucks, but fucks. Got it.
And it's not pleasant to watch when you know that you could help, but realizing that you think you can help by providing money or resources, it's not really the part that's the issue. And this isn't anyone's fault. It may be the base personality or the habits or the upbringing. Mm-hmm. There's so many other factors which can go into if the help you give can be received or not, right?
Right.
So that's a tough thing to learn as a leader because, we're not parents, but we are a very important part of the people who work for our lives. We are a source of sustenance and career, and we're in a leadership position for them. And so we have to learn those boundaries and we have to learn what we can help. And there's not really an easy way to learn that without messing it up a couple times. That's the first one. The second, kind of a philosophical one, and I won't try and wax poetry here or anything. But
I'm excited for it. Bring it on. Let's do it.
Well, when you were talking just a couple minutes ago about coaching entrepreneurs, one thing that really stood out to me is something that I had in my own journey, and I'm sure you've had this at some point too. When we start our businesses, we often have like a clear goal in mind that we're going towards. For me, it was get over to Japan and be with my wife. It wasn't money. It wasn't a certain revenue mark. It wasn't cleans per week. Those are KPIs and those are interesting, but they're not goals for me in terms of what I really want out of the business, right? So my
Yeah.
goal was like get over to be with my wife. And for me, I achieved that really quickly in hindsight. I started it in like July 2016, and then by March 2017, I was living fully over in Japan every day. So like it's a pretty quick transition.
Yeah. That's awesome.
But what that did to me was not the best in terms of the business's development. So I used the business as a vehicle for other things that I wanted in life. And when I achieved that primary goal, I realized that I was trying to escape from something instead of move towards something meaningful. And so
Yes.
I was trying to escape my current situation, being trapped in DC, separated from the girl that I love. And when I got there and I arrived in Japan, I kind of floundered for like a year and a half, maybe almost 2 years, I think, where the business didn't really grow as much. Like it was growing and it would go down a little bit and it would go up a little bit with the seasons, but it was kind of stagnant. And I was happy with that because I'd achieved this thing that I wanted, right?
Yeah.
But I started to feel very dissatisfied with my businesses because they weren't growing that much, despite they were efficient, which is great, and they were independent, which is great, but they weren't growing. They were just kind of floundering. For me, it took a long time to realize this, and it's something I coach my students on now, is the meaning in your business when you achieve a big goal. And so I needed to find a new thing that was meaningful in my life that was bigger than the previous goal that I had set. Otherwise, there was nothing to direct my efforts. I'd just go to the gym. I'd go rock climbing. I'm a big rock climber. So I'd go rock climbing and I'd hang out with people. And that sounds great. And it is great for 6
Yeah. I'm
months
over
or a
here like,
year.
oh yeah, that wonderful life.
Yeah. And it's great, man. But there's a time for that, and that can't be all day, every day, as much as I
Yes.
wish I wish it would be. And I found that there was no meaning behind my businesses anymore because a revenue mark or a number in your bank account just isn't meaningful or motivating in the long term for most people, I think. And that's for me too. And so one of the things I try and coach people on is, what is the bigger goal? What is the ultimate goal behind your business? Is it a legacy business? Is it to help your community in some impactful way? What is the thing behind the thing that you're doing when you grow this business? Because that's the thing that you're going to have to return to again and again when you encounter
Mhm.
hard situations or when your business stalls. Like I could do the best business health checks in the world, and I could use the best scorecards in the world, and I could introduce you to the best marketing agency for cleaning businesses in the world, and all of that could be great. But if you don't have a meaning in your business that ties into the meaning in your life, it's going to start to feel empty, or it's not going to grow in the way that you would hope it does. And so what I'm trying to say here in short is kind of, when you're building your business, don't try and build it to escape from something, but try and build it to move towards something bigger than the
Yeah.
business. Because if you do that, you will always achieve bigger goals with the business than you had originally set out, because you'll be motivated by something much more meaningful than a metric in your business. So anyway,
Yeah, I mean,
I wanted to
it's such
mention
a yeah. No, I love that point, and I've come across this a couple of times, and it just the way you kind of worded it really makes it sit with me in a different way, which is that running away from something can feel so much like you're running towards something. Like I'm running towards Japan, I'm running towards the love of my life, but you're really kind of running away from something, like you had said, being trapped in DC and all that stuff, and eventually you're going to get there. And then what do you do when you get there? So the business has to have a bigger purpose. Otherwise you get burnt out on it, or you're living this like perfect, wonderful life that so many people would be jealous of, but somehow it feels empty and shallow, and you're left kind of unfulfilled. And I've felt that in my own business before. That feeling of, hey, I made it to that goal. So for me, my first goal, like you said, it was a KPI. It wasn't really a goal. Was I want to make $1 million a year in this business. I got there, and then I'm like, okay, what do I do now? And I just kind of sat there at about $1 million for a couple of years, sort of looking for other things to do and getting distracted by stuff, when I was basically so close to really striking gold with the company. But you just sort of, you're kind of like, I'm just sort of here. I made it. I'm done.
yeah.
And then it doesn't feel good. You start like looking for other stuff to do. So for you, when you're at that spot, the business is kind of floundering a little, not floundering, but stagnant, and you're living this dream life, but you just don't feel complete, like something is missing, what's the next step? Like did you ever find that why? Did you ever find that mission statement, and kind of what got you there?
God, I'm glad you asked, because now I can tie it back to the coaching. So,
I'm a professional.
yeah, that was good, man. That was smooth. So I did. This is something I find with the students and particularly the VA clients of mine, which I can talk about in a minute, because that's a really interesting psychological case study right there. But yes, I did. And so for me, I found two meanings that really started to make me interested in growing the business again, and refocused my effort, and my team could feel that too. And for me, that was assigning an endpoint goal for each of my businesses. Like, one of my businesses is going to fully fund a mortgage-free house when I sell it. Another business is going to fund my retirement account. Another business is going to fund a lot of the community efforts that I do. I give them a specific, like, quantifiable end goal. That's the low level goal that I assign to my businesses. But the high level goal is something personally meaningful to me. And so for me, with my cleaning business, what's been personally meaningful to me is that it has allowed me to live in Japan, but it's also been a case study for many others who've started their cleaning companies, to actually give them a proven pathway to actually find freedom in their own life. And so for me, the ultimate goal of the cleaning company isn't so much to give me a paycheck anymore, although that's always nice every month when that arrives, but it's to be an example of something that people can follow and actually get the same result in. There's a lot of bullshit in the entrepreneur world. There's a lot of business models which have great courses attached to them, or they have big names attached to them, or whatever. And some of those work. I'm not claiming I'm the sole source of truth or anything, but but what I did originally was I built my cleaning company publicly for free for people before I ever coached anyone. And I like to have it as a shining long-term example that this business model is worth investing in your time and your energy and your life force into, and that you'll actually get something truly meaningful out of it. So I like to have it as an example for others to follow, where I can show them, yes, this is still working in 2024. Yes, in 2030, this is still working. Yes, in 2035, this is still working. You can still do this. So that's kind of the big goal for the cleaning company, is to be an example for others to follow. In terms of the coaching, I try and take this lesson with everyone that I coach. And so it's funny, I'm like the remote cleaning business guy in a way. Neil is too, if you know Neil.
I love Neil. Yeah. We were going to do a podcast together yesterday, but he's got his whole like franchise people, and he wanted him on the call, so we had to reschedule. I fucking love Neil. He's great.
Dude, he was the original inspiration actually for me to go remote. He talked to me early on and was like, "Here's how you do it." So I have him to thank. Such a cool guy, man.
Yeah. I'll tell him that when I talk to him next. We're talking in like a week.
Cool, man. Yeah, he's he'll be a good guest. When I bring new students on, so many people that come to me, they come to me with a metric goal. I want to earn $1 million a year. And I've had students do that, and that feels really good. But also, that's not who I am, and that's not what I teach. What I teach you is to find freedom that your business gives you. Freedom in your time, freedom in your energy. Your business should be a balanced part of your life, but it shouldn't be your whole existence. It's just a part of it. Family is a part of your life. Friends and hobbies are a part of your life. Community and health is a part of your life. And a business is a part of your life. But a lot of people who come to me, their whole life becomes about business. And to me, that takes away something else really important in your life. And so part of what I do with my coaching, yes, I coach them how to build a bigger, more efficient business. That's true. We have KPIs, and that's important. But really what I'm trying to do with them is coach them on finding exactly what they want out of their business, finding out what a balanced life is for them, and then helping them achieve that step by step. And so I don't really teach people specifically building a bigger business. It should be a natural after effect of the bigger things that they're doing in life, that the business grows.
So for you, you found your why in, now that I got here and accomplished this goal, what's going to motivate me more is getting other people to this place. Like, you want to give it back, and that sort of fills your bucket.
Right. And to expand on that a little bit, what I'm trying to do at a high level in my life is show other people how to lead a balanced life. The
Hmm.
tool that I use is business, but I'm also a certified personal trainer. I'm very big in the fitness world. I
Yeah.
do a lot of unconventional fitness and nutrition in my personal life, and that's another way to lead a balanced life, is making sure that you're getting the right type of exercise and nutrition. And so what I do with people now is I have a toolkit that I use depending on where the person is, and to find out where they're unbalanced and then bring them back into balance. So sometimes
Hmm.
people come to me and their health is very unbalanced, and I want to work with them on that to bring that back into balance in their life. Sometimes it's that they feel they have no time in their life and they're overwhelmed and exhausted and their business is stuck. So I help them put in systems to their business. I help them bring a VA in so that they can actually take a vacation for the first time in 10 years. But the business coaching is just a part of that. The bigger thing that I'm trying to give people is a balanced life. So what we're really trying to do is find out where the weak links and the imbalances are in their life, and then provide a roadmap for them to follow to get those areas back into balance. And I find through that high level process, distilled down into actionable steps, it makes a much bigger difference to people's lives and happiness than just fixing the business or just fixing their hiring system or
Yeah.
just fixing their marketing KPIs, right? So having the bigger thing and tying it down to the smaller things that they care about in the immediate moment is really important. You should have a top to bottom and bottom to top view of the short, medium, and long term of what really matters. And I just take that one step further in the business coaching and I bring it to life coaching a little bit.
It's a really important point, is finding that balance. Cause I've talked to I coach a lot of entrepreneurs, right? And one of the things that I see is sort of this keyhole view of just some weird problem that they have. I need more marketing. I need more sales. I need to make more money. And then that's going to make everything else kind of work. But just like you with going to Japan and kind of getting to that spot where this was my goal. I accomplished my goal. Now I'm just kind of not doing anything, sort of stagnant. Did you find that as soon as you kind of figured out what that bigger mission was, what that why was, that the business started growing again?
Very much, a lot actually. And I'm happy to share what we've been doing recently if you want to talk about like specific growth tactics too.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to get into that, but I think that the point that I want to kind of dive in on is people do this thing where like, I want to fix my business. And really, if we start fixing their life and making time to spend with your wife, taking time with the kids, getting to the gym, all of a sudden, like there's this tendency to like, hey, I'm going to spend 70 hours on this business and it's going to grow like crazy because I'm just hustling. But the reality of what happens when you're on like the 36th, 37th hour of working in the week, you're kind of just dragging your feet. You're not working at 100%. As soon as you start finding those balances, like have you ever had this happen where you're just like on the treadmill at the gym or lifting weights or doing some rock climbing, and then you just get that idea in your head, just like, oh, I should do this for the business. And it happened when you weren't thinking about the business. Your mind was somewhere completely different. And then all of a sudden when you start having that balance and things kind of even out in your life, the business starts growing.
This very much happened to me, man. And it was almost an unconscious blockage that I had, which was reflected in the business not growing. And when I removed that and had some meaning to fight towards again, it recentered me on caring about the metrics of the business and caring about the growth tactics and caring about the team and the leadership and all the other things that had been stable, but I'd been neglecting to improve a little bit. And once I got the central big thing again, I was able to start growing the business again. And this is a little counterintuitive to think about. But when we start a business, there is an unavoidable period of intense effort building that you have to do that first kind of 6 to 18 months, maybe even 2 years. You do have to put a lot of yourself into it because there's a lot of firsts that you have to go through before you know how to do something efficiently, right? You got to mess it up a dozen times before you can do it efficiently. But I find that with a lot of people, they sacrifice everything else in their life for their business, even though they started the business for the other things. Like many people, they started their business so that they could spend more time with their kids, right? Because their boss was demanding 60 hours a week. But then they sacrificed the time with their kids and their wife and their family to build the business. and
Hmm.
they've lost sight of that thing, and the business
Yeah.
has become everything. And so what I try
Yeah.
and tell people is a little counterintuitive. If you want to grow your business, you have to add the important things back into your life, and you have to reduce what you're doing on the business. So you need to
Yeah.
use sort of a forcing, it's kind of a forcing mechanism to force you to be more efficient and care about the business in 20 hours a week instead of 40, right? This is kind of a Tim Ferriss type thing. Can you grow the business sufficiently in 20 hours a week versus 40 or 60 and achieve the same rate of growth? Because if you can, then you really can spend more time with your kids, right? You have an extra
Hmm.
20 hours a week to spend with your kids if you want to. If they're teenagers, they might not want to spend it with you, but 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 you have the opportunity if they want to, right? So it's a little counterintuitive. I tell people when they want to grow their business, you can do that, but you've got to keep the other parts in harmony with the whole too. Otherwise, you're not. You might grow the business, but you will sacrifice too much in the process. Like
Yeah.
so many entrepreneurs I know are so lonely. Like loneliness comes up a lot with entrepreneurship. Like all their friends become their business friends, which is cool, man.
Hmm.
But they've sacrificed their personal relationships to build this business, and that's too much. You've given too much to your business at this point, you know? So it's
Yeah.
good to know where you're going with the business rather than just growing it more and more. That's so important. And so I'll end this kind of monologue, if you will, almost just with a tip. One of the things I try and do with everyone is I try and take concepts from different areas of a life and apply them to a business. So when you work out consistently, one of the things you do is every 4 or 6 or 8 weeks, you might take a deload week where you let your body recover and you do half the reps or half the weight that you normally do just for a week or two to kind of compensate for all the hard work you've done the past couple months. And then you increase the weight again, right? So I tell
Mm.
people to do that with their business. Every 1 to 2 months, you're going to want to take a week, maybe even 2 weeks if you can afford it, of lesser effort. Shut off your calendar, have less team meetings, refocus on recovery in your business. Then you can start to grow your business again. But you actually have to take these deload periods in business too if you want to keep growing. So anyway, man, that was, sorry, I threw a lot at you there, but
No, I love that tool. So I love a couple things about what you just said about the demo week. I love the tool of, take some time off. Like give yourself permission to, you've been working hard, body needs to go and recover. We got to build those muscle cells back up. You've been working hard on your business, just take a little bit of time off. And magical things start happening when you just take time off, like we talked about. And the other kind of piece that I want to call out about that is you've got this sort of personal trainer, exercise thing that you're doing, which has this parallel to business. I don't think I've found anything that I've done outside of work that didn't have something to do with work. So I do oil painting, I do improv comedy, video production stuff, and everything kind of has something to do with the others. And you start seeing these, you start kind of picking up on these weird little tactics and weird little skills that happen because you weren't working. So like a good example is with my improv stuff. I eventually found myself in this thing called the Meisner Technique class, which is an acting class. Doesn't really have much to do with improv. It's really for acting, but it ended up improving my improvisation skills. And the whole skill of it is about repetition. If you look up a video of it, it looks so freaking weird, but it improves your ability to make eye contact through these weird repetitions and things like that. And what I found through doing that is when I started doing that, when I was interviewing somebody, I was able to connect with them on such a higher level and just be able to get kind of deep into building trust and building respect and getting to like kind of learn who they were through this acting technique that has nothing to do with business. But now all of a sudden I'm way better at interviewing people. I'm way better at customer service. I'm way better at sales because I did improv. And for you, you're talking about this exercising technique. And as you're sort of saying it, there's certain things that, like you said in the beginning, all this information out there with these business people, gurus, and then it's just kind of fluff and whatever. Like the tool that you gave there, real tool. Like I can just feel in my soul if somebody's working hard for a couple months and just takes a week off to kind of decompress, they're going to come back stronger. They're going to come back with more ferocity to grow that business. And it's going to be really, really helpful for them. And that's like a tool that you picked up through exercise and working out. So just kind of in both of these like weird examples that I just sort of had in the back of my brain, wasn't even thinking about, and this thing that you were doing that wasn't work related is helping business. And it's just because you found balance.
Mm. And just to add on to that, another powerful tool you start to work with yourself when you coach other people, you work on framing and language sometimes, right? And I found that helpful for me too. When I work with students on framing and language, I've started to work on my own framing and language towards myself. And so one student who I suggested the deloads to said, "Isn't that just taking a vacation?" And like, yeah, it is taking a vacation actually. But if I say just take a week off, they'll come up with 1,000 reasons why they can't. They've got 30
Yeah.
leads to respond to. They've got to do
Yeah.
this, that, and that. I can't take a
Yeah.
vacation right now. And so I frame it as a deload, like a workout, because people understand that, right? They go, "Oh yeah, I've been working my muscles really hard for 3 months. I've got to let them rest for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I'm crushed." And I frame it as a deload in business, and they get it then. They get it. They go, "Oh yeah, man, this past spring season has crushed me. We've grown a lot, but I'm exhausted. I need to deload for 2 weeks." So the language that you use and the framing that you use can make a big difference in the coaching too.
Yeah. And I think, yeah, to just kind of to that point, framing super important. Like we're going to make up excuses. We're going to find reasons not to do it. But when it's, I'm doing this to help the business, it kind of gives you a reason. It gives you an excuse to take that time and to do it and to do something a little bit different. And that framing really, really makes a huge difference. I mean, that's like sales 101 stuff, you know?
That's true.
Like if I tell you, hey, we had this sales call that I was just talking to my operations manager about. She's been teaching a lot of my phone staff, just kind of working on their sales techniques. And we had this person answering the phone, doing a really good job. And then right before the close, she says, yeah, and if you cancel before 48 hours, we're going to charge you $70. And it's like, and then the customer like freaked out and like we didn't close the deal, but she had it in the bag and she just did not frame this cancellation fee thing the right way. What she really should have done is probably gotten the credit card first and booked the appointment, but then just said, hey, if anything comes up, just let us know at least 48 hours before if you have to make changes to the appointment. We do have a fee otherwise, but just let us know what's going on. Like it's a little bit of different framing, a little softer, would have closed the deal. But she just said, we're going to charge you a $70, cancellation fee if you're trapped. And like, yeah, I've seen that too with customer service emails. One of the things that I learned was if I remove the word "you" from an email to a customer who's upset. So if we say we went to your house and you had clutter all over the place, or we would never say anything about clutter because that's another framing issue. But if we remove the word "you," that makes whatever we're saying less personal. They end up taking it less personal. It kind of takes the personality out of it. And now we're just talking about facts. And it always goes 1,000% better. And I've even tried to teach ChatGPT to do this. But for even ChatGPT can't remove the word "you" for some reason. I can't get it to do it. I feel like I'm pretty good at, the prompt engineering stuff. But if I could just learn hey, if somebody's mad, do not use the word "you" because that becomes accusatory. It gives them ownership of a problem when they're trying to kind of put the ownership on you. So you have to sort of accept it, empathize with it, and then work on the resolution. But it's all about that framing, right? Sorry, a little bit of a little bit of a tangent there. This is why I like our conversations. I feel like this happens every time, but it's great.
We can cover 20 topics in an hour. That's pretty good pace, right?
Boom, one after I was getting the reps in.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we've been talking for about an hour here, so probably a good time to put a button on it. So if I had to kind of summarize our conversations, don't run away from anything. You got to be running towards something. Have something to run towards. That's going to help your business. Make sure to, use systems, build systems, find balance, use those systems to find balance in your life. Don't ignore your family and friends. They're probably going to be way more important for growing your business than you think. And it's not because they're going to give you some big deal or whatever. They're going to get you out of that mindset, get you away from that loneliness, and get you to refocus when you come back. Take some time. Don't just work 70 hours a week for years and years and years. Take that de-stress week, take a vacation. If you need to call it something else, but take a breather, give your body some time for recovery, and just generally try to find balance. I guess if we had to say anything, find balance in your business if you really want to grow your business.
Very well said. I wish I had some wise words to end with, but that was a good summary. So.
All right, Chris. Well, hey, I appreciate you coming on. It's always a good conversation. If people want to check you out, go over to the YouTube channel, which we'll link in the description. Christopher Schwab, Christopher_Schwab. If they want to work with your VA service, you've got NOVA local.com, and that's where they can find you. Anything else you want to plug?
Sure, why not? If you go to localbusinessmba.com, that's also an easy way to find me. It's a program, a 4-step program I teach, very in-depth on how to start your own local business with the goal of ending with a balanced business and a balanced life. So it starts with showing you how to launch the business. It walks you through scaling it up through various revenue points like 10, 30, 50K a month. It shows you how to systemize the business. And then it shows you how to hire an office team so that you're not doing everything yourself. So it's a program centered around building a balanced business that's not going to take your whole life away from you, but it's still going to provide a steady income. So check that out if you can. Email me, Facebook me, YouTube me, whatever. I'm pretty reachable. So yeah.
You're a very reachable guy. All right. So local business MBA, if you're getting started and want to just learn how to do this stuff and live your dream life, novalocal.com. If you're at the point where you've got your business, things are working, and it's time to get a VA, get some assistance, which you definitely need to do if you want to find that balance in your business. And if you want to just keep nerding out with Chris and getting these like just awesome golden nuggets of knowledge dropped on you constantly, check out Christopher Schwab on YouTube.
Thank you very much. Always a
Awesome,
pleasure, man.
brother. Thanks for coming on. I love you, and I can't wait till the next one.
Thanks.
I want to know what you thought about this video. I want to know what you thought about finding balance. What changes are you going to make in your life, in your business today? I don't want you to wait till tomorrow or, hey, I'm going to do this next week. Tell me what you're going to change today to get that balance back into your life, to find that yin and yang and get those back together and screw those on and find that balance, spending more time. I don't know if it's, hey, we got to schedule a date night with me and the wife or the significant other, or I'm going to dedicate every Sunday to just spending with my time with my kids, and I'm not going to answer that business phone anymore on Sundays. Tell me what you're doing different. Post it in the comments, and I will catch you on the next one. Take care, everybody.